Here.
Bill Christensen.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Right, thank you. First order of business is any discussion and approval of the meeting minutes from the last committee meeting on March 7th. Do we have any discussion? Seek a motion for approval.
We have a question. Since we didn't participate in that meeting, are we approving those?
Typically, people have abstained on that.
Abstain.
Okay.
I'm just not sure where your motion is going to come from. So I'm not sure if Representative Rodriguez is there.
So
I don't remember if I was at.
she was not. We won't have anybody that was there. All right. Well, first of all,
It was a joint meeting, Governor.
joint. Yes, we'll approve it in governance, but we don't have a governance meeting this month. So we'll get that taken care of. And also, welcome. First, I guess I should have done that. Welcome to Bill and Liz from the city and the county to the board as well. First official committee meeting, but I understand you've had some downloads with Marty already, so appreciate it. And Steve, sorry, our trusted advisor, Steve. With that, I'll turn it over to Steve for our full financial report.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. Before we get into the main topic of today's meeting, which is a presentation from Baker Tilly regarding the 23 audited financials, we're first going to review the year-to-date 2024 financials, as well as a projected forecast for year-end. And we're also going to provide a quick update on the expansion project budget, as well as cash flow projections for the remaining trailing project expenses. So with a lot to do today, let's jump right into page 6 of your packets, which is the income statement with column IDs A, B, C, and D at the top. Column A represents year-to-date budget through April. Column B represents year-to-date actual results. And column C is the variance between the two. And starting with the bottom line first, you see on line 65, column C, where we are better than budget by $895K. Most of that positive variance is being driven from non-operating income, line 40, where we're better than budget by $922K. And this is a result of better than expected interest income earned on expansion project debt proceeds, which are noted on line 35. The amount of cash that has been drawn down from the project account year to date has been less than budgeted, which has given us more time to earn interest on a larger balance. As has been the case with this category since the start of the project, any excess interest earned from the project proceeds is restricted and can be used only for the project itself. Line 38, Bucks district ticket surcharge revenue is also up as we saw more Bucks games in the first 4 months of than budgeted. And the Cirque du Soleil show was held in March, 5 performances in total. It was also a net positive to budget. Scrolling up to line 14, you see that we're $200K better than budget in this category. Event revenues generated from the meeting and convention business, specifically line 1, event room fees, and line 4, food and beverage revenue have exceeded expectations, driven by more volume, higher margins. You'll notice line 10, advertising revenues trailing budget right now. Through the first 4 months, we budgeted to have earned more new business in this category than actualized. That said, we expect to close some of this gap the remainder of the year as agreements with both Potawatomi and We Energies became effective in May. Line 27, total operating expenses. We missed budget there by $675K. Much of this was driven by line 15, wages. More wages were paid out due to increased event activity in the meeting and convention business, as well as increased overtime from staff due to open positions. We also saw an incremental increase in wages as our building services team began training for the onboarding of new building systems, which started coming online the first quarter of 2024. This was in addition to their day job, so we incurred a bit of overtime for this initiative as well. We expect to smooth this out moving forward and reduce that variance by year end. Line 20, total event expense is also over budget. And this category primarily represents payments made to our arena tenants in the form of revenue sharing. The Admirals in particular saw a substantial increase here as food and beverage sales from their events exceeded budget. Overall, net operating income, line 28, is trailing budget by $447K. Conversely, non-operating expenses, line 64, is better than budget by $448K. Much of that positive variance is captured in line 44, health and dental insurance, due to less employees enrolled in benefit plans than budgeted. This is a result of not filling open positions as quickly as we had budgeted, which is also driving the positive variance on line 41 salaries. So that's the high level year-to-date story, which has the district at a positive budget variance of $895K. So where do we think we're going to end the year? Let's turn to page 7 of your packet. Column E at G and H at the top. The income statement compares our annual budget, column E, to our projected annual year-end forecast, column F. Again, starting at the bottom, you can see we expect to modestly grow that positive budget variance we saw on the previous page to almost $1.2 million by year end. It's noted on line 65, column G. The primary driver of this growth is improvement in net operating income, as we expect the outlook for the meeting and business for the remainder of the year to be strong. On line 28, you see that number is expected to be a negative $161K by year end, an improvement over the negative $446K as seen on the previous page. Non-operating revenues, line 40, are expected to end the year with a net positive budget variance of $845K, which is slightly less than what we saw year to date. And this slight decrease is primarily driven by, unfortunately, the Bucks' early exit from the playoffs and the resulting negative impact to district ticket surcharge collections. Non-operating expenses, line 64, is forecasted to remain better than budget due to the same factors that are driving year-to-date positive variances, which are less enrollment in WCD benefit plans, coupled with really minor variation in other non-operating expense items relative to budget. Again, this all leads to a positive budget variance of about $1.2 million. We do believe there are opportunities the remainder of the year that we can leverage that may result in stronger projected net income number by the time we meet again in September. As an example, on line 8, Datacom revenue. This revenue is earned from data services that we provide clients upon request, internet connections, Wi-Fi hotspots. Oftentimes these requests come last minute, so this category could be understated, as we're simply representing requests made to date here. Along with that opportunity also comes some risk. If you look at line 4, food and beverage revenue, this is driven by estimated spend per head and attendance. Revenue in this category could be overstated if factors such as attendance are less than expected. Overall, however, we do remain optimistic about the business outlook for the rest of the fiscal year. We'll be looking to strongly leverage opportunities to generate incremental revenue as they present themselves. Any questions on the income statement before we move on? Yes, Liz.
Is there any reason why you're not forecasting higher interest income than what you've already earned?
Line 35?
Yeah.
Yeah, so part of it is sort of the unpredictable nature of the cash drawdown schedule. Well, that's been less than we expected year to date. It's also possible that a draw could come in that's greater than what the cash flow currently projects. So we've kind of taken a conservative approach to forecasting that interest income going forward. It's very possible it comes in higher when we meet again in September than what we're currently forecasting. But for now, that's the way we've approached this really since the project began. I'm trying to get over our skis in that category.
There's far less money in that account to be earning interest on. So we should be close to paying everything, let's say, in the next 60 days.
Any other questions?
Steve, this includes any RNC dollars that are coming in as part of the convention.
Yes, the forecasted income statement does account for the RNC. That's right.
Are there still things coming in, or are we pretty much locked in with everything, our contract with them? Because I have some other meetings, other things that are going on, but everything we have a purview to from the center district side is locked and loaded.
Yeah.
Okay.
Their contract requires payment in full prior to your move-in. Payment schedule since we signed the agreement. There's one payment remaining, I believe it's due next week, and it's for $200,000.
Okay.
The balance that's owed. So we're in a good place.
Okay, let's turn to page 10. We'll skip ahead a couple of pages here. This document in front of you is unique to the Finance Committee. And this segregates line items from the projected year-end income statement that we just reviewed into their respective fund balances, which isn't so obvious when just looking at the income statement. On the left-hand side of the document, you can see that we expect to generate from the income statement about $3 million in unrestricted revenue, and then $3.7 million in restricted revenue. At the right-hand side of the document, then takes that income statement information, combines it with some balance sheet data, and then approximates the impact to our cash balances. On the unrestricted side, after adjusting for capital expenditure spend, we expect to see a net positive of $62K in cash flow, which is an improvement over our budget of what was a negative negative 174K. On the restricted side, the news is even better, as we expect to see net positive cash, 5.7 million by year end, an increase over budget of 468K. This is just really a reference document so that the committee understands which buckets the revenues and expenses from the income statement are falling into. Any questions on that? Okay, while we're on the topic of cash, we're going to flip to the next two pages, pages 11 and 12. And these represent cash flow projections for the remainder of the year. And these really are the district's checkbook balances. Page 11, you see the restricted revenue account growing, expected to be over 34 million by year end. That's certainly great news there. And with this balance getting to these levels, and I mentioned this at the committee and board meetings in March, we're currently investigating options to use a portion of these funds to defease some long-term debt. We've engaged with our fiduciary financial advisor, RW Baird, on this topic. And it's possible, perhaps even likely, that management will be coming to the board in fall to seek their approval to use these funds for defeasance. Of course, more to come on this matter. We're still having these discussions with Baird. We'll certainly continue to update this committee as we prepare to take the next steps in that process.
Steve, before you move on, correct me if I misstate, but more so for the new members of this committee, going back to 2020, this balance was about $8 million. So by restructuring some debt, just results being better anticipated. This has really grown a lot. We had recommended to the board going back to 20 as part of some debt restructuring going back in 20. We, as leadership, felt that that balance needed to grow to about 20 million. We were able to accomplish that. We got as high as 27 million. As part of a shortfall that we realized in the construction costs post-COVID, we were able to take $7 million, what was $27 million reserve, put that towards the project.
Can you speak up? We're hearing that it's hard to hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. That the balance of this account in 2020 was about $8 million. As part of some debt restructure we did in 2020, we were able to get it up to 20 million. It then grew in a very short period of time to 27 million. We came to the board, and I believe it was 22, and we were realizing a shortfall because of cost increases as a result of COVID, primarily with steel and concrete. We were able to take 7 million of that then 27 million, bring it down to 20, which is where Steve and I had thought it should be anyway. And now we're as high as 34 million by the end of the year, which is just the backstory to looking to come to the board in the fall to possibly use some of this beyond what we feel is necessary as a backstop to unforeseen tax changes.
That's right. Yeah, that's a great point, Marty. That 2020 debt issuance wasn't just about funding the expansion, but it was part of a greater long-term strategic financial plan of how we get the district's financials in a more healthy state, and building up this reserve account is a big part of that.
In the same meeting that the board approved the expansion as a separate resolution, they approved the ability to restructure debt, which really helped us build this reserve up.
Yeah, and that's giving us flexibility and options to use this in a way that benefits the district long term.
I'm sorry to interrupt you there.
Okay, page 12 is the unrestricted revenue projection. These numbers are all derived from the projected year-end income statement. And you can see the bottom right-hand corner, we expect to have a year-end balance of about $11.9 million. This is an improvement of 3.1 million over budget, which may seem odd because on the previous reconciliation, I had stated that we were expected to see positive cash flow of 64K. The improvement of 3 million really comes with a better expected starting balance than we thought might be the case at the start of the year. That's because the Q4 tax revenues that came in were much higher than what we had budgeted at the time. So we saw a benefit starting with a higher balance to begin the year with. So certainly good news there. Both of these funds are in a very healthy state. And again, it gives us flexibility moving forward in terms of how we manage our debt load. Pages 13 and 14 represent the district's annual capital budget forecast. On page 14, line 78, you can see we're currently right near our budget number, trending a little bit higher. We've had a few unexpected projects pop up through the first 5 months of the year, and as a result have reprioritized other projects in order to fund some of these more immediate needs. Overall, management's not concerned with these developments, and we're going to look to prioritize in 2025 any unfunded projects from 2024. Pages 15, 16, and 17 represent documents pertaining to the project. Page 15 is a cash drawdown schedule that shows the approximate funding dates for any remaining trailing expenses associated with construction and commissioning of the north building. As you can see, there's not much left to go here. In fact, this week, we will be initiating our final drawdown of the original 2020 debt, and that will officially close those project accounts. Remaining funding will come from the debt issued in 2022, as well as grant monies provided by Levy. Page 16 is the project budget. This also shows the value of contracts encumbered to date. Not much has changed from our last meeting, and I would expect little variation in this document for the rest of the project life cycle. Yeah, the project is on time. I mean, it's already here. We're looking at it and on budget. And page 17 is, again, a document that's unique to the Finance Committee, as requested by prior members. It's a work paper that management uses to reconcile the project account with statements provided to us by the trustee. Again, nothing unexpected in these reports. We do expect to have, I think, a final report from ICON regarding project finances this fall that we will share with the board either in September, October. I'm already at this point. Okay. Mr. Chairman, that is my report today. Happy to take any questions before we jump into the 23 audit presentation.
Does anybody have any questions for Steve?
Yeah,
When do you receive the tax payment? So like you were surprised by the Q4 payment, like how much later does that come in after the year end?
Yeah, so for the month in which business occurs, we typically receive the tax data 2 months later. And then the payments themselves followed in that same month. So when we're going to the budget, when we're going to the board to approve budget in October, we've got tax data through August. So Q4 typically is a surprise for us, and we try to estimate it based on where we've seen the rest of the year up to that point. But oftentimes there's some variance that we're counting back.
And when we're looking at the months moving forward, when we're doing the budget, we know the event activity for September through December in our building. So the real variable that we don't have any sense of is leisure travel and how that affects hotel revenue as well as food. So you'll hear from us a lot. Conservative. We'd rather be conservative in those things that we're not sure of.
Anybody else? Right. Thank you, Steve. With that, we will go into our discussion on our audit report from Wendy. Wendy, how are you?
Good morning, everyone.
If I could just
Steve.
introduce the topic. Thank you, Wendy.
Go ahead.
Before she gets started, I just want to quickly say that this has been, I think, one of the smoothest audits in my and Marty's tenure here. For the most part, all information requested by Baker Tilly was provided on time or ahead of schedule, and subsequent discussions and follow-up between management Baker Tilly was, in my opinion, pretty tight and efficient. I'd like to acknowledge the district's internal finance team, namely Kyle Graham and David Ray. They are now well-seasoned veterans of not only district business operations, but also the audit procedures we execute each year. And their ever-growing institutional knowledge has proven to be invaluable during this process. So a big thank you to both of them for their work on this audit. And lastly, as has been customary for the past 6 years, Marty and I, along with Kyle, reviewed these statements with both the county and city comptrollers, Bill and Liz, in advance of this meeting. And while still relatively new to our board, we certainly value the experience that you both bring to this room and appreciate the review and discussion that we had with you around the 23 audited financial statements, and look forward to working with both of you to further strengthen the financial health of this organization. So following Wendy's presentation today, and of course, any questions and discussions from the group, we'll ask this committee to pass a motion recommending that the full board adopt these financial statements at next week's board meeting. Kick it off to you, Wendy.
right, well, good morning, everyone. My name is Wendy Younger. I'm the partner responsible for the district's audit process. Also with me today is Paul Frantz. He is going to fill in for me next week, Friday. I will be on vacation. So he has joined me today to hear the presentation. I know that he works with both the county and the city, so some familiar faces in the room for him. Included in your packet is our presentation, along with the draft documents of both the financial statements, the reporting and insights document, and the Levy draft report. Our agenda for today, I'm going to highlight the objectives of the audit, go over the draft opinion that is included within your financial statements, go through some very high-level financial highlights of the activity for 23 compared with 22. I will discuss several of the points that are included in the reporting and insights document, and then share some information regarding the Levy draft that's included in your packet. And then also just want to quickly mention the pilot calculation work that we've done that is new this year. So on the page that's up on the screen, I've included the objective and the opinion that we plan to issue. Again, your documents are in draft format until they're approved next week. The objective of the audit was to issue an opinion on the financial statements for the district. Included in your report is a clean, unmodified opinion, highest level of assurance that you can obtain from us as your auditors. That clean, unmodified opinion means that the financial statements included within your packets are believed to be materially accurate. All disclosures that are required to be included under the standards have been included, and that generally accepted accounting principles had been adhered to. So again, the same type of opinion that you've received in the past and the highest level of assurance that you can obtain. Moving on then, we're going to touch on some very high-level financial results, again, in draft format. When we look at this next slide, this is the statement of statement of net position. This is your balance sheet. This is representing 23 compared to 22. A couple items to note. You'll note within your current and other assets category, you're up roughly 1.4 million over the previous year. This is the category where not only is your unrestricted cash, but also receivables. Your receivables were up 1.1 million over 2022. Mainly a large portion of that is there was the gala commitments that were included in there. That is a large portion of that increase. When we look at the non-current asset section, this is where your capital assets are included. You'll note 1.08 billion last year to 1.1 billion this year. Also included in this category is restricted cash. So the borrowed money that is being utilized to pay for the Baird Center. You'll note restricted cash went down 210 million. And capital assets went up 223 million. So we'll see in a moment, depreciation is a factor in that, but it's been very consistent from year to year. The addition is also included in capital assets, but not yet being depreciated. It was still in progress as of the end of the year. So there is no additional activity on that. Deferred outflows of resources. This is where the activity, there's some unamortized gains or losses on refundings, but there's also the related pension and OPEB outflows that are included in there. There was a significant activity on the pension side with the city. Pension deferred outflows went up roughly $3 million over the previous year. And we're going to see that as a recurring theme as we talk through the information. You're going to see a large increase in the liability. You're going to see a decrease in the inflows, but you're also going to see some additional expenses on the income statement side. When we move down to the liability section, you'll note current liabilities up roughly $12 million. Most of that is in the area of accounts payable. Not only did you have the retainages that were existing on the construction, but also some related additional construction invoices. Construction related costs were 8 million of that increase of 10 million. Long-term obligations, You'll note $6 million increase there. Pension liability went up 6.1 million. You also had the pay down included in there, the natural pay down of the debt issues that exist for the district. That was roughly 13.5 million. And then you also saw an increase in the accrued interest on those obligations of roughly 17 million. Deferred inflows, again, an increase of 10 million. Actually, the pension inflows decreased during 2023. However, the large increase in that area is related to leases. GASB 87 was applicable for the district in 22. 23 saw some additional activity there and related increase in the unearned revenue that will be recognized over the life of those leases. When we look at the net position section, you'll note a $3 million decrease. And if we move to the next slide, you'll note this is the activity that contributed to that $3 million decrease. When we look at 22 compared to 23, again, total operating revenues up slightly over the previous year. This is mainly in the advertising area. Advertising came in $400,000 more than the previous year. And then commission on concession sales was also $600,000 over the previous year. When we look at operating expenses, again, $6 million increase in that category. You'll note that most of that activity is in the unallocated operating expenses area. And that's where the employee benefits, the increase in the pension of 1.3 million is included in that category, along with advertising and promotion. Paid to visit Milwaukee, 3.2 million. Yeah. Then, as I mentioned previously, depreciation and amortization stayed relatively consistent over the previous year, but we'll see an uptick in that as we begin to depreciate the new addition. In the operating section, the net tax revenue, $6 million over the previous year, that was discussed earlier. That is in all categories, not only city but also in budget. So all categories saw an increase. The large increase there, that is in investment income. It's $8.2 million increase over the previous year, and as you found, was an excellent market year. Last item, just to know very quickly that capital contribution, which looks like it's online there, that $70,000, that was some additional work that was done at the tax theater and ultimately contributed over to the district. So part of your capital assets and offsetting revenue. So overall, this is so past theater group and some investments that highlight improve our asset with the funds. So that's right. That's right. Yeah. That's the group. Sorry, missed that one on my picture. So then, 23 saw a decrease in that position of 2.7 million compared to a $10 million decrease last year. Again, keeping in mind that this is not necessarily a cash representation, as this is full accrual. So if we go to the next page, this is where we highlighted the cash flow statement. You can see that the activity is relatively comparable year over year. The one item that I would note on this page is towards the bottom. There was no borrowing done in 2023, so that looks and feels a little bit different than what you saw in the past. But you note the $213 million decrease in cash. If you go a few lines up, you'll see that decrease is really contributed a result of the $233 million of capital activity. So overall, using up those restricted funds. As also was discussed previously, the unrestricted cash, roughly 21 million compared to 22 million last year. So very consistent and at that level that management was looking for. So this decrease is really in that area of the restricted cash down from previous years. On the next slide, switching gears a little bit, this is highlighted some of the content of the reporting and insights document. This is a document that we issue as part of the audit process. Really satisfies a couple different purposes. Allows us to communicate any comments or recommendations that we may have as part of the audit process. We have to have some standard and customary communication under our standards. We include that within the report. We also utilize this report to communicate any material weaknesses, significant deficiencies, or control issues that are noted. Very happy to say the district has very good internal controls. The one item that we do note in this report is related to the fact that we, as the auditors, prepare the audited statements, the schedules, and the footnotes. Have already had some discussions about possibly having management do that going forward and ultimately removing that material weakness. We also do material journal entry as part of the audit process, and that's related to the pension activity, the delay in getting that information. We start the audit and that information comes in subsequent to completion of the audit work. So there is journal entries that we do as part of that. That is included in that document on the attachment. Also included in there, two-way communication. This is really our solicitation of the committees, the boards, management's input for 2024's audit. If there's areas of concerns or things you'd like us to look at, please feel free to reach out. The other comments and recommendation sections, this is where we highlight new governmental accounting standards or GASBs that are effective for the district in the upcoming years. There are a couple that are applicable for 24. Don't believe that there will be any real significant impact. That's GASB 100, which is reporting changes, and then 101, which is related to compensated absences. So we'll work with management throughout the year to make sure that they're ready to implement if at all necessary. Required communications included in there. Again, as I noted when I began, very normal and customary. The only thing I would highlight in there is the estimates that are included within the district's financial statements. We talked about a lot of them when I went through the high-level summary, your pension activity, your OPEB activity, depreciation, and ultimately the lease receivable and related unearned revenue. Also included in that report is a copy of the management representation letter that will come to us after approval next week on district letterhead, but the various components of that are laid out in that document for your review if you so choose. On the next page, again, as part of the audit process, we do some work related to the Levy food service agreement. We do evaluate the information that they compute. We look at the information related to revenue and expenses to evaluate whether or not that is appropriate and appropriately recorded with the district's financial records. I will thank everybody in this room, or at least management in this room, for helping us get that document complete and that audit complete. This is something that typically has been issued September, October of each year, and everybody worked really hard to make sure that we were able to get that completed as part of this process. So again, you do have a draft of that document in your packet. Nothing unusual or unexpected found there. Last item, which is not included in the presentation, I alluded to it when I began, the payment in lieu of taxes calculation. We were asked as part of this year's engagement to take a look at the calculation that management did of that in conjunction with the agreement related to that calculation. Very happy to say we've gone through that. We've evaluated. You do not yet have a draft in your packet, but we hope to have that ready for you for next week. But again, nothing was found that wasn't expected. So the calculation that management had done appears appropriate under the agreement and the financial activity for the past year. On the last page, again, I know I go through this very quickly, but I am happy to talk with any of you or other board members regarding our process, the documents, our engagement. I've included both my work and my cell number, my direct email address. Happy to have further discussions, but also happy to answer any questions you may have now.
Wendy, just on that payment in lieu of taxes, can we make sure that that's in the packet? Can we press to get that for next week? I think it's been a topic of conversation, just to make sure we're very
Of course.
honest. What's being done.
Definitely.
And I might suggest on that, even a letter addressed to the common council, to the mayor, stating that, you know, what you found was that the calculations that management had done were correct.
Great. Yes. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, before we move on, Steve earlier in this discussion, just as Wendy was starting, acknowledged the efforts of both Kyle and David on this team. One thing that you may recall, and Kurt may recall, that, and Latanya, going back 6 years ago, it was common for the audit report to have a series of points that were identified by Baker Tilly, not as things we should be calling IRS over, but issues of the way information commingled or individuals' responsibilities were mixed, and the ability to show that there was a wall between areas wasn't as deliberate as it is. And it would be inappropriate for him to acknowledge himself, but I do want to say that under Steve's leadership, we have been able to now on a consistent basis with Baker Tilly's review, have the notes really culled to almost nothing. And that's not just because it happened, it's because Steve reacted to those comments, suggestions, and has really strengthened and tightened up.
Oh, great. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate your diligence on that. It's a lot of work. We're here where we are. Shorter presentation than we've had in the past. Not because of, no, I didn't mean it. It's just because there are less things to come.
Yeah. Understood.
Good. Right. Thank you. Hey, Wendy, thank you.
You're welcome.
Marty, we'll turn it over to you for a CEO report.
Sorry, before we dive into that.
Yeah. Why do you keep interrupting me?
No, Chairman, if I may.
Make him nervous.
Please, unless we're on question, would like the finance committee to make a motion to correct board adopt the financial statements at next week's board meeting.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Happy?
I don't know, Steve. Do you have anything else? I'm done. Marty.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'm not going to go into the details of CEO report because it would be duplicative of what I'm going to share next week, but I'll just go over the topics that, excuse me, that I plan to cover. Want to make the board aware of, or more familiar with, all of the pre-grand opening activities that we did. The grand opening gala itself, and then what we've done since then as far as activities to promote the district, but more importantly, the expanded Baird Center. An update Steve alluded to when he was talking about the corporate partnership revenue being down in the first quarter. Have some good things to report, and I'll share with the board next week over more information of the agreements that we've reached with both Potawatomi and the Energy Foundation that really are helping bridge that shortfall in the first quarter. We'll go through the updates on meetings and conventions in all three buildings. Same with what's going on with our sports team tenants in the Panther Arena, how PTG is doing with the Miller High Life Theater. Share with you the most current staff engagement activities we have underway. An update on the RNC. Most importantly, I remember going back to when. At the time, Donald Trump came to host a rally in the Panther Arena. There were concerns, how could we do that? And we've got, not so much from a content standpoint, but financial risk. And it was the case with the Trump agreement, as was with the DNC and the RNC. All expenses are paid in advance, so there's no risk that the district has in regards to the RNC as far as financially. And then an update on where we are and the final timeline to end the expansion project. One thing that I will be bringing up in closed session, asking that we go into closed session next week, is we are about to begin contract discussions with the admirals. Their lease expires at the end of the 26-27 season. I just want to give the board, we have not yet met with them. We're meeting with them in the middle of June, but I want to make the board aware of those how we anticipate those discussions to go, so that if anyone gets a call, they have a sense from the management standpoint what we're looking for. So more to come on that in closed session next week. Mr. Chairman, those are the topics thus far that I have for my report for next week.
Any other questions or any other topics that we as a board would like to see Marty address? Okay, great. Next week, we do have a board meeting on Friday, I believe, June 7th, at 8:30 a.m. right here. Very similar to the board, the finance meeting. We do have the action item where we will approve the audit report. So it's a recommendation coming from this committee to approve that, but we will have a full board vote to approve that as an action against that. Obviously, a little more robust about where we are at the expansion, CEO report, and all the things Marty covered. Then we will go into close to have the discussion about the contract negotiations. And again, meeting dates and other items as we see fit, but pretty much similar to this with one or two exceptions and then one action item what we will need to vote on. So I would ask that everyone is either in attendance in person or via phone so we can, or video or phone so we can ensure that we get the proper votes recorded on that. Are there any questions or any additions for future board meeting dates? Okay, good. And then I think the dates are in the calendar or in the back of this packet. Obviously, Friday is our next one. Our next committee meetings are scheduled for October. So we'll take the summer off. But as always, as things come up, I know Marty and Steve will keep us informed, certainly, as to how things transpire with that. With that said, any other discussion items that we have here? If not, we can always get those on for future board meeting dates. It would be too close in to get it because the agenda has been published for this Friday, but we would do that for the next board meeting, which will be the 27th of September. All right. With that, I will seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Have a great bye. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
So. Found him. Well, good evening, Great Lakes West. I'm Jeff DiOrio. Most of you probably already know that, and I know Hans gets really nervous when I get in front of the microphone, so just relax a little bit. It's going to be okay. Well, we already know that I am managing the best transportation team in the industry, right? All right. Our next retiree spent many years in transportation before retiring earlier this year. Would Dave Toomey and his wife Diane please come to the stage? Dave retired this past spring after a year. Would Dave Toomey and his wife Diane please come to the stage? Dave retired this past spring after 15 years of service in our transportation department. Dave started out as a driver in 2008 before moving into dispatch role in 2010. He spent the last 13 years working with our transit team and branch managers, making sure the loads were where they needed to be at the right time. Thanks, Dave, for all you did for our team, and we wish you all the best in retirement. Dave may not have been here tonight. I thought he was. Okay. All right. Well, I get the pleasure of announcing another retiree. I'd also like to recognize the recent retiree of Kelly Jackson. Right. Kelly spent 35 years serving Gordon Food Service as a driver. Unfortunately, he was unable to join us tonight due to a schedule conflict, but Kelly truly represents the very best we strive for in transportation. As many of us gathered to wish him well on his last day, Kelly pulled into the yard, he washed his truck and trailer. Pay attention, guys. He vacuumed it out, you know that vacuum we have out there. He wiped down the interior, washed all the windows, just about anything you could think of, all while we were inside watching him, just waiting. He said, I wanted to leave it in good shape for the next guy. That's just the kind of guy Kelly was, and we're going to miss him very much. Congratulations to Kelly on his retirement. Okay, so the best part with dinner coming, dinner will be served in just a few minutes. While you enjoy your meals, please take a look at the slides on the screen, calling out our recent award winners. Oh, and you'll see a few highlights from our Great Lakes West Olympics as well. And yes, we know Warehouse won the gold medal, but we had a small, mighty group. We had a small, mighty group of transportation team. I think the ratio was like 100 to 10, something like that. But, right? Yeah, we came in close. So Sean, enjoy your dinner because we're coming for you next year. Thanks, guys.